Peace. You're tuned into the Edible Activist Podcast. I am your host and favorite edible activist, Melissa L. Jones. On this show, we feed you empowering narratives and perspectives from the voices of emerging Black people and people of color in food and agriculture who are stewarding the land, healing communities, and advocating for food justice and economic power across the globe. Our rich contributions and stories exemplify the spirit of activism in their own edible way. Let's get started. Peace. This is Melissa L. Jones with the Edible Activist Show. I am super excited to intro another episode the very first episode actually in 2023. I am joined by the lovely Falani Spivey of Bird's Nest Box. What up, cousin?
Hey, cousin. What it do, boo?
Oh my goodness. What it do? Everything.
I'm trying to tell you.
Welcome, peace, y'all. Welcome to the show. We're again just super excited to come together and sit and break bread with my cousin. And I know we did a part 1, which was a intro and launch to our Cuzzin Talk rather. Yep. And so just super excited to actually launch the new year with this episode. So a lot has happened.
Yes.
And I hope that you have been resting, Falani. Cousin?
I have. I rested in December. I rested a little bit this month, and the year is off to a phenomenal start.
That's great. That's great. Well, I think one of the things I want to do is just let's sit in gratitude a bit. There's so much that happened. You had a lot going on last year, 2022. I had a lot going on 2022, but I really just want to set the tone for gratitude, as we launch into the new year. And it's very easy for us to just take off. The new year starts right and you take off and you start to put your list together and your goals together. But I want us to sit in gratitude and sit in our success too.
Yes.
Because we forget that.
That's true. Yeah. And give thanks. Well, first, you got to sit in the success to know what you're giving gratitude for. Because a lot of the times when you're people like us, where we just constantly moving from one project to the next and, working and doing things to gain financial income and then doing other creative endeavors, sometimes you almost forget
you do
what you've done. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So,
so resonating.
Yeah, let's sit, reflect.
Yeah.
Give thanks for those moments that led us to here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, you want to kick us off? I can go. It doesn't matter.
Look, I mean, whatever's clever. It's 2023. I've started my year off basically with the fam and went down North Carolina like a week and a half ago. And
shout out North Carolina.
And it was a quick 2-day trip, but it was every time is profound and grounding and just super healing. Excuse me, I was handling some family business with my aunt, and this is on the Spivey side where the land, my great-grandpa acquired this land. It's a long story, but he acquired this land, I can't remember what year, but okay, I'm 4 generations next, and the land is still there with a family village, we still live down there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had heard stories that his mother had worked in the big house. Now, this was after emancipation, but, back in the South, it was still practices of, exploitation.
Absolutely.
And stuff.
Still is.
Still is, right. And so in any event, so she had these children by the owner. And so my great-grandpa, I don't know if she had children. I think she just really had him by this white guy. Mm-hmm. She was sexually exploited. Mm-hmm. And so saying all that to say, his story is interesting. But so I don't know. I know he worked for the land, but I don't know if some was acquired because the family. I said, so I was just down there. I said, who is these people? These white people that is his. She said, oh, they live right here. And so we rode down the road. She said, even the house is the house where he was born is back there. Mm-hmm, so essentially, this family land is on the land that that my ancestors and stuff worked. So we was riding. She said, these is the McIntyres or whatever. And then she said, yeah, can you believe? She said, Mama, that's my great aunt. She said, Mama had to work in the she had to work for her own aunt, kind of like as a domestic worker. Mm-hmm. And I said, that is so odd. She said, yeah, that lady was her aunt, and she would pay Mama to come or clean or just take a ride with her. And I said, and she never called her auntie, or it was never acknowledged, but everybody knew. So I was like, that is some weird ass shit. Mm-hmm. Because you thinking now, Matilda, who worked in the big house, who was sexually exploited and had this baby by this white man, and then their family, they hated that somehow my great grandpa, I think this white man did leave him some land, and he worked for some too.
Okay.
They hated it, the white people.
Of course. Yeah.
And they burnt down the house that was on the land, and they poisoned all the cattle. That's what my great aunt told me when my great grandpa got this land. They really tried to destroy it.
I believe it.
They did destroy it.
I believe it. They
destroyed the cattle and they burnt down the house. And but over the years, our family bounced back. So that's one of the experiences that I just had 2 weeks ago. I had knew the stories, but I didn't know how close the plantation and stuff was, and so that was interesting. And so then I went on Ancestry.com. I had never joined it because I always found history for free and stuff online. North Carolina has if you're listening, and if you are in North Carolina or have family that comes from North Carolina and are into family history and genealogy, North Carolina has a great digital collection of their census, and it's really good. Oh,
that's awesome. That's good to know.
Yeah, North Carolina is great. They even have some websites specifically for African Americans, and records of enslavement and things like that. So I could go on and on off a tangent, but I know that when we talk, we're going to be talking about family on Cuzzin Talk.
Yeah.
And so that was just a nice experience, spending time with my aunt. I'm going to stay focused. She doesn't have children, and I don't have children. And I it's interesting because I feel like sometimes it be the people, maybe the people that don't have kids have more time to be, as what my cousin calls, root shakers, digging into, the history and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So
that's me.
Yeah. So I value that. So
absolutely.
What's going on in your world with the Joneses?
I know. Well, I just, in the spirit of gratitude, as I hear you talk, I am eternally grateful that. And I'm always shouting this person out, Chrissy of Charismatic Creations. I'm so grateful that she planned that wonderful dinner last year where I first met Falani.
Shout out to Chrissy,
who is an amazing connector. Because I don't know, I'm sure maybe we would have crossed paths another way, but we were meant to cross paths at that event, and the next day when we're at the rooftop of Eaton. And we've connected ever since, and which has led us to being in this space right now, because every time Falani talks about her family, like, it's like this wave that comes over me because it's such a familiar conversation, and conversations that I typically only have with my immediate family members, not even with my friends, love my friends, but like the family dynamics aren't the same. So when I'm thinking about my family structure and you talk about your family structure, I'm just sitting here like, dag, like so familiar, and just such a blessing that, you know, you have such like a rich legacy and rich family, and I have the same.
Yeah.
And it's just so familiar. And so I'm just grateful that we can just sit here and talk about that. And I can gush over, like, Falani knows, I literally on Instagram, like, what? Her photos, just like this whole, it's almost like you put together like this whole like treasure map, you know, or like this capsule of like, you know, of family everything. And I just love it. And so I'm just grateful for that. And so again, I had to shout out Chrissy because she put together this awesome event. That's how I met my cousin over here.
Yes.
And I'm like, listen, as we dig deeper, the root shakers, right? I like that root shaker. Like we might really be like blood cousins.
Well, and it's funny because we do have some Joneses.
Okay.
That are related to us.
Okay.
On the Williams side, which is my great grandpa's wife, my great grandmother, Ellen Williams, and the Joneses. Now, I know y'all are coming out of Mississippi.
We are.
But that's another thing, why the records are cool and important to look at.
Yes.
Because you'll hear through oral history how relatives, and we all know how the black family has been disrupted and destructed, you know, in this country since we left, you know, the continent, and even our native people that was already here. And so we always had these disbursements, whether it was being sold to a different plantation on a different state, or whether you was fleeing lynching, or, you know, through the Great Migration,
yes, cousin,
so forth and so on, whether you was fleeing like bad economics in the South to come up north, you know, to make a living. Excuse me. What was my point? Because I went off on a tangent.
And here I am, just like fully
to the Great Migration.
Like,
what is my point? It's about the disbursement, right? And this whole black diaspora that exists within America.
Yes.
So it was a story where, like, one of my great grandfather's relatives had two uncles or somebody, and one said, looked that way and said, I'm going that way, and another one said, and I'm going this way.
Yeah.
And they did that.
That's what it was.
They went to different states, and there was no phones and letters, and sometimes it was so much pain, these people, what they was leaving behind, they didn't want to look back. And so they created their own families in different states. So you never know. We could have went down Mississippi.
Right?
See, they had a lot of that going on too, where it would be these exploiters human exploiters it'd be a brother in Mississippi.
Exactly.
With one name. The brother up in North Carolina with the, you know, plantation and stuff. And they just constantly, maybe the enslaved African was giving her trouble. So they say, okay, we're going to send you down to Mississippi.
Right.
To this plantation.
Yeah.
You know? And so who knows? You never know.
Either way, you're stuck like glue, so you ain't going nowhere. If you try to go somewhere, you're not going nowhere. You're not going nowhere. Cool. You're not going nowhere.
It's all love, girl.
You know, the other thing too, as you were talking about the white man owner of that land that your great aunt had a child by.
It's his mom, Matilda, my great grandmother.
Great grandmother. Okay. So, and again, the similarities, right? I remember, I don't think I talked about this last time, but one year when I was in Mississippi and we went down to Mount Olive, which is a very, very small town. I'm trying to tell y'all, no changes have been made since this place was incorporated.
Mount Olive, Mississippi,
Mount Olive, Mississippi. You blink, you miss it, okay?
Okay.
And I was on this whole excursion because I wanted to see where my great-grandfather, who was a sharecropper, where he raised his family. And, you know, my grandmother, aka Big Mom, who I call Big Mom, we were driving along this dirt path, and she was like, that's the house where that big pine tree is. There's, mind you, there's nothing but this tree, and it's just all land. And I'm like, Big Mom, like, who owns all this land? Like, who owns it? She put me in touch with a cousin, actually a family friend, who still lives down there. He's been living in Mount Olive forever. But I'm grateful for him because I was able to extract, you know, some history from him about our family. Mm-hmm. And he's like, this white guy owns it. All this land in Mount Olive, like where my family, where they farmed, everything. And I said, I want to talk to him. He's still living.
Oh.
He's still living.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, he has no kids, and it's just him. And I think he raises cattle and he sells them and all this other stuff. And so, so we go, and he takes me by his house, but he wasn't there.
Okay.
And in the back of his house, he has like these trolleys, and I'm drawing a blank on his name. I know I have photos, so I know I have it in my records. But he has like these trolleys and like trucks and stuff at the back of his house. And our family friend was like, this is the guy, this is his house, this is the guy that literally owns the majority of the land in Mount Olive, this white man. And so unfortunately, he wasn't at the house, so I wasn't able to talk to him. I'm not letting that go. I still want to go visit and talk to him. But I just, as you were talking, that was resonating in me, and just one part of my experience in Mount Olive, in honestly being at arm's length to a white man whose family owned that land prior to him, and it was passed down to him.
Right.
And he still has ownership of it. And I'm just also like, who are you giving that to? You know, like as far as I'm concerned, there's nobody. It's just him. It is literally just him. But more to come on that, my excursions. But that I had to just bring that up because that was just kind of drumming inside of me as you were talking as well.
That's a good question. Who is he giving it to? And there has been, you know, we've been fighting for reparations for a long time. This new talk is not a new thing. It's been happening. And I can understand that it could be kind of complex on, you know, how much and all this, and now there's this whole movement of who's getting what, and African American, this ADOS thing and this and that. Well, I want to say a quick thing. I don't ride with no particular parties or none of that, but I think that, because I'm going a little bit off on a tangent, but I do want to say this. I think people should get their reparations in whatever country their ancestors put in that work.
Preach to the congregation.
Now, of course, it could get a little blurry and muddy back in the days during slavery, where we had Caribbean Africans coming from the Caribbean and vice versa. But I think it need to be a time period where you say, okay, if you've been here since then, because I'm a Pan-Africanist and I'm all for unity and African diaspora love. But in terms of us here on this land, we've been fighting so long and so hard for rights and things, and that we still don't have. That's why it's easier for a Caribbean person to come into this country and get better business loans or business deals. They come over here, and I'm not trying to make a separation, but I because sometimes people think I'm Ethiopian, and Ethiopians, some of them talk bad about us, but they just start yapping because they think I'm Ethiopian. And so you have a lot of, and I'm not trying to say because I got some good folks and brothers and sisters in the Caribbean and on the continent, but there are some that say we lazy. They come down and look down upon us. They don't want their kids hanging with us. but they're only here because of the rights that we fought for.
Mm-hmm.
We open up the gates for them. You understand? So my thing is this: when it comes to reparations, go to your countries and fight for your reparations like that. Because it can't work like that. Cutting everybody a check. This black kid. Come on now. And they're saying they want that. The ones that's here, they want a piece of the check.
Yeah.
But it's like, go back to Jamaica or go to, give
me my
and
land.
Fight England. But I'm saying all that to say
I see the point you're making.
That's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But you and I, we know the families who enslaved us.
This is correct.
Our forefathers did too, but they just sitting back.
Mm-hmm.
See, black people, some of us have, especially in the South, are a little docile. Truly.
No, you're spitting a fact. That is a fact. Yes.
They've been staying in their place, they're this and that, because I'm trying to figure out, okay, reparations shouldn't be that damn hard if you and I both know the plantations we came. These people are still sitting there.
Right.
And I asked my aunt, I said, so you went to school with these people and all that? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They know. So, okay, y'all don't want to cut a check. Give some of that land up.
Yeah.
Who is that man? So reparations, it's not that difficult. I could see on a wider range maybe, but if you got banks that then got rich off slavery, it's all there. The records are there. Give us the land. Y'all ain't give us the land. I want the check too. But the land is so important because with the land, you can turn that into checks and money. That's another thing our people don't do. That land is just sitting.
It's just sitting. Oh my gosh! Don't pull that. Don't tug on that heart.
I'm not understanding.
No.
Well, I understand because black farmers, we know the USDA, and we know we was left out and cut off.
We were bamboozled completely.
However, it's 2023 now. The land and our people, they'll have land that just be sitting on and acting all stingy.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I know. It's
like
very
it's just land
sensitive.
that's sitting.
I know. Yeah. It is because of my most recent experience with, and I think maybe we touched on it last
time. Mm-hmm.
It's such a sensitive topic. It is such a sensitive topic. And it makes me sad.
Yeah.
To feel like something that I have inquired about within my family, my bloodline, and to feel like I can't be a part of what I am a part of,
Right.
And there's so much I want to say, and I'm hoping as we have more Cuzzin Talks, I find the words to articulate like how I truly feel about what you just spoke to, because it is hurtful. And I remember I was talking to my aunt a few weeks ago, and I had it was a joke, but it really wasn't a joke. And I said, well, this person pretty much told me that I wasn't family. This person said, well, I'm going to keep the land in the family. And I'm like, we're blood.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so while I get you meant your immediate family, in that moment, I can't even tell you when I was sitting in that room, in that trailer house where my family still lives, I wanted to cry.
Yeah.
Falani. I wanted to cry. I didn't even know. The only thing that I could do was hug him. And I said, okay, it's time to go.
Yeah.
Because I was so sad and I was so emotional and I was literally about to cry.
Yeah.
By someone saying, no, I'm going to keep it in the family. Doing nothing with it.
Right.
A piece of something that I want, that my great grandmother, lived, built a home.
Cultivated.
It hurt me at my core. And I was having another conversation. I was in Atlanta recently, and I was talking to, I think this is if it wasn't her, it was somebody else who was talking to. Similar situation, that once you start to inquire, I don't know if you ever dealt with this, but I know many Black people have. Once you start to inquire about a thing within the family, whether it's an heirloom, a piece of land, or something, it's like people come out the woodworks, and it's like, well, what is she inquiring about? Well, what does she really want?
Yeah.
And I felt in that space over a year ago. So I said, you know what? Let me just let it go for now, because I didn't want to be that family member that someone made up a story of like, she's out to get land, or she's out to, and that is not, right. Yeah, I do want the land, but I also had a direct conversation with the person who owns it too, so
as well as a connection. Yeah. Like you said, your great grandmother. So when people come out and say stuff like this, because I had a cousin say something like that similar, my land.
Yes.
And I'm like, first and foremost, we've had several conversations about the legacy. This is land that great-great-grandmother Matilda had to fuck for unknowingly. You know what I'm saying? And here you are, a century later, a century and a half later, talk about my land. And then her son acquired by working his ass off. And now how did it become your land, sis?
Yeah.
But this is the mindset.
That part. Yes.
That a lot of us have. And when it's interesting, because when we talk, we've said this before, when we talk about Black land laws, oftentimes we do discuss the USDA practices, the destruction of the Black farmers.
Ooh,
but
I know where you're going,
our
Falani.
people don't be talking about the internal stuff with the land.
What were we talking about when we hosted the Black farm, the dinner?
Because it get real messy. It gets wild to the point where I had to tell my dad, I said, enough of this land. I said, this shit is cursed. And the more and more I think about it, and the more you bring it up, all the fights and stuff, I said, this land has brought so much fights in our family. And then my dad is like, yeah, but no one, I get that, but it also has brought stability. We talking 4 generations later, still living on the land.
Yeah.
Right. So, and he's like, no one wants to ride by the home house and then see development. Developers want it.
Right.
And so he don't have the energy, because my family fights each other a lot. The Spiveys, I love y'all, but we are very volatile, and we can even get violent, unfortunately. There's a lot of fights.
Yeah.
And I think it comes from my great grandpa. He probably had it hard, because you got to remember, his mom had other children, but she had a husband, and a Black husband. He the only child from this white guy. He probably had it rough.
Yeah.
People think about colorism, and they think that light-skinned people had it sweet. But imagine being the only light-skinned child in an African descent family. Eartha Kitt talks about it.
Love
this
Eartha
outcast. She was from down North Carolina, mixed up like that. Some white man sexually exploits the African woman. And so, where am I going with this? That land.
The land.
So when we talk about the history,
right.
It's beyond, because people
it's beyond
get
the
stuck
USDA
on the land.
And all. Yeah, like it's you talked about like the internal fights.
And the internal fights. It gets crazy
when it comes to land loss. Like literally internally not being able.
You got family members in my family that have said, no Spivey. I don't want no Spivey to own it. And it's like, how fucking dare you?
Yeah.
With the forefathers and mothers have built this, and you talk about now you don't want it to go to nobody in the family.
Right.
It's sick-minded
and hurtful
for $1, as opposed to coming together and saying, what can we do with this land to generate funds? Because see, when I get me some land, I'm setting it up. I don't have children. yet, but I have nieces and nephews. I'm setting it up where it can never be sold out of the family.
I know that's right.
Period.
Which is a whole nother conversation. How can we set up things legally better, more protected, so we aren't fighting.
Right.
So that someone from the outside, or even someone even outside of the unit whose name isn't on the deed or not part of the trust, or however that works,
right,
isn't trying to or cannot dictate what happens. My other side of the family, whole nother situation. And I'm talking acres, like acres of acres of acres and acres in Mississippi, a mess. But you make, and I knew you were going this way, you made such a valid point about, yes, we talk about land loss when it comes to what the USDA did and like just, but when it comes, what we don't talk about is internally how that land gets lost, or how it doesn't get sold
to the highest bidder.
Yes.
Not sold to, let's keep it in the family and work out a deal. No, sold to never be acquired again.
Ever. Yeah. And if you try to acquire it, you jumping through some hoops.
They look at you like an enemy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, damn.
Oh my gosh.
Why would we spend more time fighting each other? And then the white people in the town is watching it all unfold.
Exactly.
They're saying, well, we going to wait. Then it's going to go to court, but forced to sell because they fighting each other. Mm-hmm. And then it goes off.
Yep.
And that money is spent within 2 years.
Mm-hmm. With nothing
that
down. You can pass down to the generation. Nothing. That is the $1 million question of like several questions of who else is in this space of trying to acquire something that has already been sold because you want to pull it back into the family to keep it, to pass it down from generation to generation. I'm definitely in that space,
Same.
You're in that space, and my deepest prayer is that, my hope and prayer is that we do get what it is we're seeking to acquire, because we know where our hearts are. We know the legacy that we're building. We know how important it is to pass things down and to keep it in the family. This isn't for greed. We aren't looking to acquire to sell for trillions or billions and millions of dollars. That's not why we want it.
Right.
At all. That's not why I want it.
Right.
At all. So it's such a sensitive topic.
It is very
so
sensitive.
Many layers.
To the point where I'm like, because we was trying to gather folks in the family about this sale.
Yeah.
See what we can do. Then one cousin said, and I agreed, why would we pay another cousin all that land, all that money for land?
I know.
That is our birthright.
Right.
Just because their name, it just so happened to fall into their laps and with their name on the deed. Right. Now, granted, across the road, so the land did get split up, but we're talking about the home house and the main property. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's in the hands of two people who don't have children. Mm-hmm. So the big question, like you said, how do we acquire? I don't even know where to start.
I know.
It's like you're blocked.
Yeah. But I wanna erase that block. I don't even want it. I mean, I hate that I've even had to have conversation and say, listen, I will write you a check for that land to still for someone to still tell me, no, you can't have it. I can't talk about this no more. I just.
Okay, so let's talk about some happy things, girl. But this is some real stuff that we did have to get out.
Yes,
because I'm
and
quite
to be
sure,
continued.
Right, because there's some others out there, and we posed the question: how do we move forward in reclaiming? When they talk about regenerative,
yes,
land and stewardship, how do we do that? Because I'm sure we're not the only ones.
Right.
It's some black family land that people don't even know about.
Right.
They didn't even check when their grandmother died, or
they do
and
not
it just
know.
the taxes wasn't paid and gone.
And somebody is scooping it up because there are people out there waiting for you to default on them taxes.
Oh yeah.
And don't let them pay the taxes for a few years, depending on what the laws are. Like, pay them taxes for a few years and you default it. It's not. And if you can't pay those taxes back that the person paid, it's not yours. It's gone.
In any event, black people stop seeing your land as just a paycheck.
Yeah.
A one-time paycheck.
Ooh, that's a shirt. That's something, a bumper sticker.
Okay, that's it.
Well, Falani, it's 2023. And again, I'm just so grateful to break bread with you in the studio and chat.
Thank you, cousin.
And what I want to spend some time talking about is how do you want to show up this year? You know, I know for me, like, my theme is how am I showing up for myself, right? I'm actually going through, a lot of people don't know, Falani obviously knew, but I had surgery like some months back, and which is why there were no shows, no nothing, you know. And so I am feeling so much better. Those 2 to 3 weeks after surgery was hellish. I have never had a major surgery before, and it did not feel good, but it needed to be done. And I'm better. I'm going through physical therapy and mental therapy. And so just that continued healing, because I knew for myself that I just could not cartwheel out of 8 weeks of like medical leave and be like, I'm okay. You know, like when you have major surgery, like that is traumatic. When someone's cutting your stomach open, like that is trauma to the body. Yes. Right. And so I'm just back to that gratitude, grateful that everything went well and that I am feeling much better and that I'm in a space that makes me so happy to have this dialogue and with an amazing, dope person, cousin, grower, you know. So, but the theme and what I've been telling my therapist is like, how do I show up for myself, right? Because yes, though it's important to, you know, how you show up for others, we do a lot of that, you know. And one thing my therapist said, she said, that's performing and that's trauma, you know. And I said, one thing that I want to get out of in just a moment of transparency is that whenever something happens to me, or we can say for me, whether, you know, whatever, you know, breaking up with a friend or something, whatever, it's like, how am I like reinventing myself to like show up for the outer world? It's just like, okay, whatever, I've been through that. Let me reinvent myself and show back up and show y'all I don't want to do that no more. You know, like I want to be proud of myself and show up for me. So like every day that I'm waking up, I'm saying, great job, Melissa. You know, like great session, great therapy session, great show, you know, amazing job, you know, launching YouTube series last year, like that. And that's also like sitting in your success too, which we define ourselves. Like, please y'all define what success is for yourself. Do not let social media do it. Just do not. Like, set your goals, your intentions, and define that for yourself. And so, for me, showing up is like, how am I showing up for myself? How am I really, really taking care of myself? You know, breathing. You know, like, Mel, breathe. Like both my therapists just like, bring it back to your breath, like breathing, you know, not being too anxious and thinking so far off into the future that it causes me anxiety because I'm afraid of what I may not be able to get done. Right. But like being more present is how I want to show up. So I'll pause.
Yes, I love that. And thank you for showing up for yourself. You know?
Yes.
Because if you don't do it, who else will?
Exactly. Hello.
So I'm loving that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
You know, it's interesting that you pose this question and you say how you want to show up. Because I'm not trying to copycat. But even towards the end of last year, because I do a lot of things, and I'm one of those people that, depending on what space I'm in, I'm just going to say, I do this. Mm-hmm. I don't go down a list of things that I do if it's not relevant to, you know. So I'm saying all that to say that last year I was extremely busy.
You were.
In a good way, but like busy.
You
like
were.
I didn't have time to kick it with friends. I love taking naps. I could count on like both of my hands how many times I took naps.
Oh, man.
That's not cool for me. So now I didn't feel like I was burnt out, so to speak, because what I do, I like doing it. Mm-hmm. However, both of the industries that I'm in is kind of masculine, which is, growing. And then I'm a freelance camera operator. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I'm not feeling feminine enough. You know, they have this term, the soft life.
Yeah.
And because it's just like, again, the industries that I'm working in and constantly on the run.
Yeah.
And
a lot of us often operate in this masculine, space too. Like not even just tied to profession, but there are other traits and attributes.
The society, as a whole. And then couple that with really being in the industry, And I'm one of those, I'm a girly girl, but I'm also like a tomboy, right? So, I mean, like, I love fashion and dressing and everything. And growing up, I was very fashionable. Like, my mother taught us how to sew, so I made my own clothes. Like, I was always, like, the one with the unique looks and shit like that. So, I'm like, damn, as an adult, and in the industries that I'm in, I don't really get to play on my femininity and sensuality as much as, I would like. So I was like, okay, I got to spend some time and do things like even simple things like manicure and a pedicure. I don't get that done sometimes until I'm going on a trip.
Right.
And so I'm like, no, I got to incorporate a softer life. So I've started to, and I love massage therapy.
Oh, me too.
But now I'm like, no, you need to do this often.
This needs to be your lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle.
It's a
not
lifestyle.
Just here and again. Mm-hmm. So I have a wonderful massage therapist. Her name is Tarika. And she has a spa called Manifest Station.
Okay.
Tarika is the bomb.
Shout out to Rika.
She do these detox massages with herbs and stuff. This sister is sharp.
Is she mobile or does she have a place?
She has a place. She operates out of Deanwood.
Okay, bet. And
this sister travels and learns all types of techniques and is steadily incorporate. Every time I go, it's something new she's doing, So I'm doing that.
Thanks for the plug, cousin.
Yes, Manifest Station.
All right.
And then I'm like, I want to do facials. Mm-hmm. Even if I can't do them monthly, even if I do them seasonally, but then make sure weekly I'm doing clay mask in the house and steams. Yeah, because sometimes it's not about necessarily do we have the budget.
Right.
It's about what do I have in my home that I can make spotlight.
Exactly.
So I want to show up softer, more feminine, you know, more sensual.
Yes.
And lighter. So I'm gonna be learning to say no to gigs. Sometime when they come, just because it's there.
Yeah.
That don't mean I have to say yes, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I gotta get my money up and stack it, but even if I say to myself, okay, if you're gonna work that hard, say you're gonna one day of work, you're gonna spend that money on pampering yourself.
Right.
Simple shit.
Right.
Cause I realized when you do your nails and you have your toes and stuff done, you feel better.
You better say it.
I be looking at my shit.
Like, look at my little manicure, my little red. I love red. My little red nails. Put a little ring on. Pop.
Okay.
You just feel pretty.
You feel pretty.
And you feel good.
And you feel good. So I'm just trying to show up softer.
I like that so much.
And spend more time with loved ones. I do it with my family, but even some of my close friends, we get busy as adults, and you blink and you like, damn, the whole year went by, I didn't even see them.
Yeah.
And we get shit misconstrued with social media because you be thinking you seen people, but you haven't. So I want to strengthen my interpersonal relationships.
Yeah.
You know, and just take moments out, you know, just to be here. Because what is life if you don't do that? If you just going through the motions?
Exactly.
So that's where I'm at with it, cousin.
I like that. Show up softer. I like that a lot. When I get home, I'm gonna steam my face just because.
Okay. Seriously, and your skin is gorgeous.
Thank you.
But see, we have to put these practices into play now. You know?
Yeah, sister just turned 40, honey, so you know.
Girl, 40 looking 30, so we want to keep this elasticity in.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
That collagen.
Yes.
I want to eat better. I want to show up eating better because although I am a grower, but again, sometimes I'm back to back gigging and I'm just not home enough to cater to myself to cook. You know, to do these things on a daily. So I want to eat better. I love potato chips. I'm trying to swap the chips out for nuts and be healthier.
Baby steps. Get you some pistachios if that's your jam.
I love pistachios, and that's just the nut that I did. I was at the Aldi's. I looked at the kettle cooked chips, and I said, "It's giving pistachio.
It's giving pistachio.
50% salted at that." So, cause I'm like, you look at the women in your family, and it's like the high blood pressure, the diabetes, and so I'm like, let's start now, cutting this stuff out.
Yep, absolutely.
So, that's about the size of it, cousin.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of food, before we wrap up, I'm not going to end this show without talking about the bomb ass food, okay, that Cousin's mama over here cooked up. So I don't know if y'all had an opportunity to partake in this experience. This was in December.
Yes.
Am I throwing my months right? Okay, December. Falani hosted a pop-up, had some amazing things for sale. Falani, that shea butter with that mango. Shot. You can't. That is my ritual when I get out the shower. Nice. I be touching myself. I be touching my leg. It be so.
That's that self-care you was talking about.
Gosh, I love it. Yesterday I was like, I said I gotta stock up on this from Falani. I said it is amazing.
Yeah, thank you, cousin.
I love it. But they had a menu that was out of this world. Okay, out of this world. Oh my gosh, fried fish. Barbecue tofu. I had the barbecue tofu plate, which was the bomb. Okay. The plate barely made it to my apartment. I had the jollof rice, which was phenomenal. The cabbage, divine. Oh my gosh. Then listen, I saw Falani the next day because I had to drop something off, and I said, I was texting, I said, y'all got some leftovers.
Yeah, look.
Lonnie was like, nah. I was like, I was gonna pay for some leftovers,
I know,
honey.
you said that, girl. Yeah, did you get dessert?
I didn't end up getting dessert.
But
no.
you did get the cocktail mixer that me and Chrissy.
Oh my gosh, yes,
like
I
that?
did. I love that cocktail mixer. It's gone.
It was refreshing, right?
It was
Chris?
so refreshing.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I actually had a guest over. It was perfect because I had a guest over. So I actually had poured some of that.
Okay. You did a mocktail? Or
I did. It was a mocktail.
Okay.
I did a mocktail, and then because I love my brute, but I was still post surgery, not
Right.
trying to drink too much.
Right.
And then I had purchased some of your salad greens, so I actually
Okay.
had made like a little salad for my guests, and I said
nice.
actually everything was pretty local that day with the greens, and then I had some leftover. I had made like some stews from like my leftover CSA share
Okay.
from Gail, and so it was like the little black
Yes,
grown
grown
local
by black
lunch.
women.
Yes,
Know
the
the
salad
girl
dressing. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Falani,
Hey,
that
girl,
food
Gail
was
from
amazing.
3 Part Harmony.
Shout out to Gail. Oh my goodness. Like the bomb. But that was amazing.
Glad you enjoyed it.
Oh my
Cousin, I really appreciate your support.
Always.
Whether you come through a pop-up or
Always.
fish fry, invite me to be on the podcast with you. I'm just loving it. And furthermore, this year, I think we need to travel and hit the
Let's do
road.
it.
We're going to go to Mississippi,
going to
talk to
Mississippi.
the white landowner guy.
Yes, we are.
We're going to go down North Carolina.
Yes.
I have 2 cousins on the Spivey side that I want to talk to, elders. And I think we can put something together. I'll bring my Black Magic Pocket Cinema camera.
I love it.
And we go through, we do a visual podcast. What they call it? Vlog?
Whatever. Vlog,
Whatever they
something.
call it. No, we said we call it now as mini docs.
Yes, mini docs. Micro docs. Yeah.
So I see that for us, cousin.
Let's do it. Set the
yeah,
intention. We
yeah.
saying it now, y'all.
Okay.
I can see that.
So Mississippi, Mount Olive,
North Carolina.
North Carolina, and if when we go down the SIP, I definitely gotta stop in Alabama, see my family in Birmingham.
We can do that.
Okay.
We can definitely do that. My mom is from Alabama too.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is I can show you where my great grandmother and them used to live.
So let's write out a proposal.
Yeah.
Get this thing on the road. We may even shop it around, see if we can get some sponsorship. And
if you're listening to this and you want to sponsor this and you want to see this, Cousins Hit the Road down south, holla at us.
And if you have cousins or elders, because we want to talk to older elders.
Yes.
And just get these stories.
Yes.
So if you have even people that you think would be good for us to talk to.
Yes.
Hit us up, y'all.
Please. Oh, so dope. We're going to make that happen. Cousin, it's been a pleasure. First episode of 2023, Cuzzin Talk.
You. Yes.
Looking forward to more. We'll be back in the studio. And there's some things that y'all want to hear us talk about. Like, hit us up in the DM. Be like, yo, enjoy the conversation. Let's talk more about X, Y, and Z, whatever. Like, you never know. You never know. Because we talk about everything on here.
Yeah, okay. And maybe one day we can even go live and y'all can put y'all questions in.
Yes.
Y'all have it.
Yes.
Do something a little bit more interactive.
Absolutely.
Because I miss when you could call up to the radio.
I know.
When,
Y'all, some of y'all may not remember them days. I know I used to be.
remember Love Talking Slow Jam?
Yeah.
Man. Anyways,
oh
y'all.
my gosh, throwing it back. All right, y'all, thank you so much for tuning in to the Edible Activist here with Cuzzin Talk. This is part 2, episode 2, or part 2 rather, what we're calling it, with Falani Spivey, a Bird's Nest Box. So if you have any questions for us, want to reach out, please find Falani at Bird's Nest Box on Instagram. You can find me, Food Talks and Color, on Instagram. And we look forward to the next episode, y'all. Be easy, take care of yourself, and peace.
Peace out.
Thanks for tuning in. You can catch today's episode on iTunes, Spotify, and Simplecast. And be sure to follow us at Food Talks in Color, that's just the letter N, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And did you know we are on Patreon? This is a way for you to take action and support our mission of amplifying BIPOC voices on the Edible Activist Podcast. Visit patreon.com/Food Talks in Color to learn more. Peace and blessings. And remember, in the great words of Baba Tariq Adunu, there is no culture without agriculture.